occupation?
My name is Yuri Melich, Y-U-R-I-M-E-L-I-C-H. I work for the Orange County Sheriff's Office. I'm a detective corporal in the Criminal Investigation Division.
Do you have a specific assignment with the Orange County Sheriff's Office?
I do. Currently assigned to the Child Abuse Missing Persons Unit.
You had referenced in that affidavit, and there's been some testimony about a car that Ms. Anthony had the use of. Can you tell the court, first of all, what kind of car that was and where it was located when it was towed?
It was a white Pontiac belonging to Mr. Anthony. I believe it was under his name and Cynthia Anthony's as well.
Are you talking about Mr. Anthony being George Anthony?
I'm sorry, George Anthony, yes.
Father?
Correct.
Okay.
And it was initially recovered at their residence on Hope Spring Drive. That's when we recovered it from.
Do you, or did the course of the investigation reveal where that car was towed from?
Yes, it would be Johnson's Wrecker on Narcoossee Road. That's where it was taken from by Mr. Anthony, I believe. Right. It was recovered actually at a different location and taken to Johnson's.
Where would that have been?
That was at the Amscott on corner of Goldenrod and Colonial Drive.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was it about Narcoossee Road?
That's the location for Johnson's Wrecker on Narcoossee Road.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
All right. The Amscott is a business?
Correct. Check cashing place, I believe.
All right. And you said 50 in Goldenrod?
Yes, ma'am.
Colonial, State Road 50?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. When you all took possession of that car from Mr. George Anthony, what did you do with it?
We brought it into our forensics bay. It was actually recovered at his home, and we've had a detective follow it back to the sheriff's office where we have a forensics bay. It was brought and dropped off in the forensics bay.
All right. Do you have any knowledge as to how long that car had been in the Anthony's possession from the time that they had received it from this tow place? How long did they have it?
They picked it up the day before. I believe it was the 16th, if I'm not mistaken, from Johnson's Wrecker.
And when did the sheriff's office take possession of it?
The 17th.
You say it went to the forensics bay?
Yes.
What was the purpose of taking it to the forensics bay?
There was a talk that there was a very bad smell inside the car. After speaking to Casey extensively, after listening to all the stories, after trying to follow up all these leads, obviously we started having to look elsewhere and see if we could obtain information elsewhere. And I remembered that somebody had mentioned there was a very bad odor in the car. So we asked Mr. Anthony, Miss Anthony, if we could go ahead and seize the car, look for evidence inside of it. And Mr. Anthony signed an affidavit allowing us to do so.
Did you process this car, or do you have other individuals who perform that function for the Orange County Sheriff's Office?
Currently, we have 2 crime scene investigators that are processing the car as we speak, and they've also done some preliminary processing.
All right. Can you tell the court what evidence, if any, was found in the car?
Yes. Initially on the 17th, when we had the car towed, our forensic technician met us downstairs. I actually went into the car to smell what the smell smelled like. Briefly, just before I came into the child abuse unit, I was a homicide detective for 2 years with the Orange County Sheriff's Office. And in my experience, the smell that I smelled inside that car was a smell of decomposition.
So what do you do in response to your discovery?
Now, obviously, we start working it in so far as we need to start collecting evidence. If that is, in fact, decomposition, we need to start looking at the car and finding out why that smell would be in the car.
Right. What did you do? What did you ask be done?
A couple of things. Obviously, the crime scene investigators were present. Initially, we were told that there was a bag of trash in the car when Mr. Anthony picked it up. The first thing we wanted to do was recover this bag of trash and determine whether or not that could have caused the odor. One of our investigators met with Mr. Anthony, who in turn showed him where the trash was dumped at. The contents of the trash matched what Mr. Anthony had told me earlier the night before, earlier that morning. We took that trash also to the bay, opened up the trash to examine it to see if that could have caused the odor. In my personal opinion, the smell from the trash is definitely not that of...
Judge, I'm going to object. He's offering an opinion. He hasn't been admitted as an expert witness.
In a bond hearing, not in front of a jury. His personal opinion interests me. It was what?
The 2 smells were not the same.
All right. So do you ask that further testing be conducted on this car?
Yes, our crime scene investigators are working on the car to try and determine where the smell is coming from, if it's coming from a particular area of the car. And one of the areas that they focused on now is the trunk of the car,
Why is that?
because they found hair samples in the trunk of the car that are similar in length and color to that of Kaylee. They also found a stain inside the trunk of the car that came up under black light that's questionable and we need to process. They also found some dirt inside the trunk of the car that needs to be processed.
During the course of the investigation, did you get permission from the Anthony family to search in their backyard?
Absolutely. They had no objection to it.
Why did you seek to do that?
Hoping their cooperation, or looking for their cooperation. Obviously, my first and foremost job in this is to find Kaylee. If there's evidence in the car that can be gained that can help me to that extent, that's what I want to do. They've been very cooperative throughout the whole time in allowing us to do so. So obviously, the first thing we'll do is ask for their permission. We're not going to go execute something and make them think like we're looking at them in a bad light.
Okay. Was there a specific reason why you sought their permission to look in the backyard?
Yes. There was a crime tip that came in from a neighbor saying that sometime in the mid to late June, Casey had come home and she had her car backed up to the garage. Neighbor thought that's just odd, the fact that she backs it up. She doesn't normally go nose in. She came over that day and asked to borrow a shovel. So he loaned her a shovel. He continued to work out in his own yard, this being the neighbor. Didn't see what she did with the shovel. About an hour later, after he was done working in the yard and taking a shower, she returned the shovel to him. So obviously that prompted us to start looking at the residence on Hope Spring, given the totality of the circumstances, to see if there was something there that we needed to be aware of.
Does the Orange County Sheriff's Office have what is referred to as a, colloquially, as a cadaver dog?
Yes, we do.
Explain to the court what that is, if you can.
I'm not a dog handler, so I can't get into specifics, but in very layman's terms, they can seek out the scent of human decomposition, and from what I understand, they can actually distinguish the difference between human decomposition and animal decomposition. So we asked one of our handlers who has a cadaver dog if he would respond to Hope Spring and actually deploy his dog to see what his dog would find.